with the Arizona Department of Public Safety. We received our first call of an actual wrong-way driver about 2:55 this morning, traveling southbound the northbound lanes of the Loop 101, right here at Guadalupe. We think that the vehicle actually transitioned from the US 60 somewhere onto the 101 and began traveling wrong way. Shortly after, we began receiving additional calls that a head-on collision did occur right at Guadalupe. When our troopers arrived on scene, they found two vehicles. Actually, we found 5 vehicles involved because, and let me back up a little bit so the folks can understand. After the initial collision, we actually got an additional call that a second collision happened. Okay, that second collision involved 3 vehicles, so we have a total of 5 vehicles out here. It looks like one big jumbled mess. But the first collision that happened was a silver sedan traveling southbound in the northbound lanes. He struck a passenger car that was traveling in the correct direction, and they hit on a passenger side to passenger side type head-on. So it wasn't a direct head-on. Both those drivers are going to be okay. They were both transported for injuries. Our wrong-way driver is being investigated for impairment right now. He has the most serious of the injuries, but he's going to be fine from what we know right now. Shortly after that collision happened was our secondary collision, meaning it was a result of the first one, but it wasn't involved in the first one. 3 vehicles involved in that. 2 people transport from that, 2 drivers. 1 driver is going to be okay from that collision, and 1 passenger, she is also okay from that collision as well.
So 3 total transported?
4.
4
So our first
okay.
2 drivers were transported, and 2 from our second collision were also transported. I know it's so confusing.
Yeah.
We have a lot of debris out here. What our troopers are doing now is they are actually assessing the scene. They've done their photographs, and they go around, they actually measure every piece of evidence, all of the vehicles, their locations, so that when they get back to the office, they can actually draw a diagram of this thing and look at it from an aerial view, and it just makes a lot more sense. And so they're going with that route right now. We're estimating another 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hour closure here to finish that up, get all of our tow trucks on scene, get all the vehicles out of here. I mean, we have evidence out here. We're investigating a crime, and hopefully we can have the freeway open within about 2 hours.
Well, talk to me about just the extent of the damage here. I mean, I can only imagine like one crash leading to another like this, and the debris field even is very large here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, you think, how is someone not dead from this collision? Our vehicles are actually made better now than they used to be, so there is a lot of debris, but that is on purpose. The vehicles are actually designed to absorb impact, and so a lot of times with that, debris gets spread all over the place. But it was a high impact collision. There is a lot of damage to both the initial vehicles and the second vehicles as well.
Tell me about that 6th car. We've seen a 6th damaged car. Is it part of this investigation?
A 6th damaged car?
We counted 6 damaged vehicles out here.
Well, there was another car that was a witness,
Okay.
and we've actually let that witness go. He was not involved, but he did see the secondary collision. So we have 5 total vehicles
So maybe
involved
they're
in.
damaged.
We get a lot of, when we have these wrong-way drivers, we get a lot of comments from viewers saying another one again. Why are we not using stop sticks? Why does this keep happening? You guys have some programs, some systems in place. How is that working? Maybe you can talk about these stop sticks, because I think that you guys have looked at it and it does not prove to work well, which is why we don't have them out here.
Well, ADOT, the Arizona Department of Transportation, is responsible for all the engineering that goes into the roadways, and that includes any type of signage or anything that would prevent a wrong-way driver. If we were to put some sort of barrier on an on-ramp or off-ramp or something like that to prevent wrong-way drivers. So they can speak better to that. And in fact, on their blog, they've actually discussed why stop sticks really don't work. They're not designed for the high speeds and the amount of traffic that we see coming on our ramps. We are working again with Phoenix PD to catch wrong-way drivers before they get onto the freeway. And the way that that's working, we're actually finding it's working very well for us right now. We cannot arrest our way out of the wrong-way driver problem. These people are impaired a majority of the time, as we see again this morning. So what we can do is just implore the citizens of Arizona to please do not get behind the wheel impaired by anything, alcohol, prescription drugs, or illicit drugs, illegal drugs. Do not do it. And if you know someone that is going to do it, stand up, take that away from them. We have to make this a completely unacceptable problem in our society.
Where was the wrong way driver driving? Typically we see them in the HOV lane because they think that's the slow lane.
So we don't know exactly what lane he was in. We will determine that as the investigation continues. But we do know he was further on what he would consider his right side, so maybe in the HOV or the first lane.
So then tips for other motorists. You know, we have that secondary crash, which we don't often see in these wrong way incidents. When you're driving, what do you need to be aware of, especially in the middle, what some people consider the middle line, we consider very early in the morning because we're heading to work. But what do you need to be looking for with these wrong way drivers? What is the best way you can possibly react?
So when you're driving the correct direction, our wrong way drivers are usually driving to your left side. So the HOV, the first couple lanes. If you can, stay on the right side. You know, there is no one perfect solution for driving, but these are just suggestions. The other one is stay alert. Don't be distracted while you're driving so that you have time to maneuver out of the way, to make a steering correction if you need to. And just be aware of where you are and what you're doing. Have a plan in mind is another thing that we've talked about. And you know, we hate that people even have to talk about this, but have a plan in mind. Know what you will do were you to encounter a wrong way driver.
It was the silver car, and what was the other vehicle, the other sedan that was?
So the first two is our silver car that looks really messed up, and then
that guy over there.
Yes, this one over here, just behind the fire truck.
Okay.
The other three, so our turned over car, this black one, and then there's a green vehicle behind the fire truck, are part of the second collision.
Okay, and then are both drivers of the initial crash, they were 26?
They are 26-year-old males from our first collision.
And then the driver, the wrong way driver, we know what his injuries are?
I know that they're serious. We can't really speak to injuries because of medical laws and things like that, but we know that he is injured, most serious than anyone else, or more serious, I should say, than anyone else. He may be admitted to the hospital, but everyone else, they're actually in the process of being released already.
How miraculous is that? I mean, because when we arrived on scene, we said the same thing you did. How does anyone survive a crash like that?
Yeah, I mean, all we can say is we're so grateful that everyone is going to be okay from this, especially our victim and the subsequent crash victims as a result of the first one. I mean, if you want to call it a miracle, I guess we can call it that. Again, this wasn't a direct head-on, which in this case was helpful. Maybe one of our drivers was able to last minute kind of move over a little bit to avoid that head-on, and this is where we are now. We do see all the debris and everything.
Thank you, Cameron.